This is the Nebraska Greats, a weekly podcast as a service to the Nebraska Greats Foundation, which serves former collegiate athletes facing medical needs and financial challenges. Your tax-deductible contribution will change the life of a former college sports hero. Please give online at negreats.org. And now, here's your host, Jim Rose.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Nebraska Greats Foundation podcast. This is Jim Rose, and so pleased to have one of the most popular players in Nebraska football over the last 10 years, the diminutive wide receiver from Chicagoland, Jordan Westerkamp. Jordan, great talking to you. How are you? Get us updated on what you're up to these days.
Yeah, hey, I appreciate you having me on. I was looking forward to this, but right now, and I was just talking to Matt about this. I had taken a job about 6 months ago at a chiropractic office in Wheaton, Illinois, here where I live. And it's been awesome. I work with athletes. I work with a bunch of people and I do a bunch of different things there. So that's kind of what I've been doing. Football wise, most recently, I was working with the XFL. I was doing that, but obviously COVID, they suspended the league. And I know everybody was affected by that, unfortunately, all businesses. But I was doing that. That was going well. And like I said, took a hit there with everything going on. But I saw recently that the Rock, Dwayne Johnson, bought the league and there's hopes to bring it back. So if I'm feeling good, I'm feeling healthy, I'll give it a shot. I think I read 2023 might be their date they're very back, which I'll be 29 then. So I'm not getting any younger. I wish it'd come back sooner, but I know I can still play. And if I'm feeling good, I'll give it a shot.
Hey, not all 29-year-olds are created equal, okay? Some 23-year-olds look like they're 79, okay? And then some 29-year-olds look like they could still play. I think you're still in that category.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
But it has to be hard, though, if your dream is to continue to play football, and you've been playing football since you were probably 7 or 8 years old, and you really don't ever want it to end, and here's an opportunity to do it. Must be a challenge, though, to keep in shape, to stay in football shape, knowing that the phone may ring tomorrow and there's my shot.
Right. Yeah. It's a tough deal. It's a tough deal in a bunch of aspects because there's also that feeling that the guys will get when it's starting to come to maybe an end, so to speak, where that call might not come anymore. And that could have an effect on a guy playing sports, like you said, since I was 7, 8 years old, for it to kind of come to a halt. It's a tough deal. And not to mention, like you said, working out and staying on that schedule. It's a lot easier when you're within a program and you're not forced to do it, but you have a super strict schedule that's set for you. And this time's your workout, this time's your second workout, this time's your training table, this time's that. So it's quite a change to kind of be on your own. But I love working out, so that's never been an issue for me. So I'm always working out when I can and eating healthy, doing everything I'm supposed to do. So if an opportunity does present itself, I'll be ready.
Okay, you're probably giving away some very valuable intellectual property here, but people look at Jordan Westerkamp in the year 2021 and remember 10 years ago when he was a freaking freshman at Nebraska, and you look the same. So what is the deal here? What's the workout regimen? Give us a day in the workout regimen for Jordan Westerkamp.
Yeah, number one, 10 years ago, it's amazing how fast time goes. I can't believe it. 10 years ago, I was just getting ready to actually head to Nebraska. So it's just crazy how fast time goes. I'm super strict in my diet, and things that I've learned during my time at Nebraska from our head nutritionists at the time that were there, and people that just kind of helped us with that. So I'm real strict with my diet. I try to work out once, twice a day if I can. Again, I was telling Matt at the chiro office that I do work out. They have a nice rehab / exercise room for patients. And there's a lot of stuff in there. So whenever I got some time, if I got an hour or two downtime where I'm not going to be seeing anybody, I'll try to sneak in a workout here and there. And I'm on my feet all day. So it's that's helpful as well. There's a little day in the life of Jordan.
Yeah. Okay. So diet wise, you've got to stay on protein, but I'll bet there aren't any carbs and there's not a lot of sugar in that diet. Yeah.
Low sugar. Carbs, I kind of up and down here and there because obviously carbs give you energy. So it just depends. If my workout's going to be a heavy, hard workout, I up my carbs a little bit, but it varies. It varies. But I pay attention to it. I'm really strict with it. Like I do my macros and I keep track of everything. So pretty strict with it.
Yeah, you're crazy. Okay, nobody's supposed to keep track of like that. You're nuts. All right, you're off the charts.
Yeah, a little different. I mean, I know we like a lot of my friends and all that stuff and ex-teammates, we all did that in college, and I kind of just kept it going. It's kind of it's instilled in me. But it's kept me healthy. It's got me feeling good. So I like it.
All right, talk about the step. You were obviously an outstanding college football player. Talk about the step to the next level. What is the thing that swallows up most guys who were really good college players but don't make it in the NFL or in at any level of professional football?
Right. I think for my case, just for me, unfortunately, in my senior year, I had a lot of injuries that held me back. Going into my senior year, that spring ball, I had to have a sports hernia surgery that I went to Germany for. The Nebraska sent me there for. And during the season, we're playing against Illinois. I took a shot to my back and I broke some stuff in my back. So I missed a couple of games there. And then at the end of that senior season, getting ready for bowl prep against Tennessee, I'm running with the ball and I just feel something moving in my knee. I get an MRI and they tell me that I got to have surgery and I was done. And then I was on crutches for 6 months following that surgery. So I missed combine prep. We were getting as strong and as fast as possible you can get. I had like a mock pro day where I was about 3 weeks off of crutches, but I just wanted to show coaches that I could run. So by no means was it anything quality wise, but it was just me showing them. They just wanted to see that I could move around and I wasn't still on crutches, so to speak. So for me, that's kind of for my deal. That's one part of it. Obviously, is it's the healthy part, right? Availability. That was the toughest part for me. Thankfully, I still had my shot with the Dolphins there. They signed me free agency and I was there and I was doing real well, but my body was just still so messed up and compensation issues. And I ended up popping my hamstring when I'm there. So it just, for me, it was just a injury after injury. Starting my senior year, my body just broke down, unfortunately. And I think that's just a product of wear and tear and playing in the Big Ten, a slot receiver, you get banged around. But that's one aspect of it. I mean, there's so many things. There's obviously a skill gap. You're no longer playing guys that are middle tier, so to speak. Every guy in the NFL is the best around. I mean, everybody at that level is elite. So there's a skill jump. There's some learning curve a little bit. Let's say you have a simpler offense that you're running in college. You get the NFL, and it could be something that's more pro style, and then there's a lot of lingo, and you can't pick that up as much. So there's a ton of aspects to it. But yeah, I mean, there's so many things you can sit back and look at: availability, injuries, learning
politics.
Politics. Yeah, politics. Didn't mention
guys
politics.
Get drafted in the first 3 rounds. They've got an investment in them, so they're going to give them a lot more chances.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, and then there's that as well. And then they didn't even touch on that. So I'm glad you brought that up. But yeah, those are a few things that go into all that.
When you've had as many injuries as you had in such a short period of time, look, as many football players will tell you, if you're not hurt in November, it's because you're not playing. So everybody's hurt in November.
Right.
There's a difference between being hurt and being injured.
Right.
So you were largely injury free. Everybody's got bumps and bruises and little things.
Right.
But you were largely injury free until your senior year.
Right. It was, it was crazy. I was good. And then had a great junior season at Nebraska, my biggest season there. And then just, I had some soft tissue stuff that kind of lingered from the end of that season. And I thought I took care of it. We went into, winter strength conditioning, and, I was doing the rehab and I was doing everything I was supposed to do and just, get through that. And I just remember right at the end of that winter conditioning, we had like our tests, to see what our new numbers were, so to speak. So we did like pro agility and something like that. And pro agility requires a lot of lateral movement and your all the muscles down there. And I just remember like I was hitting the pro agility and I just felt like kind of like a little bit of a pull. And I tried to take care of it. And then in spring ball, a few days in, I made like a plant and something, and it just popped on me, and I fell and find out I have a sports hernia, and I had to get that taken care of. Thankfully, I was at Nebraska, and they could afford to send me out to Germany for the best surgeon in the world to get it done. So it was about a 2.5 month recovery, but it's just something I wish I didn't have happen. Obviously, it's better to be healthy than to have that and get it repaired. Obviously, that's without saying. That kind of started it, and then had a good summer. We get into the season, then I just had a freak a freak incident against Illinois where a ball was thrown a little low. I went on to dive for it. The linebacker comes behind me and it like slid into my back, and his knee just nails me in the back. And I find out that I fractured a couple of my transverse processes off my spine, those little knobs on the side there. I said three of them. And that is just like, it's more of a pain tolerance thing, because those fractures thing, they don't move. They kind of just stay in place. But the blunt trauma of the knee, I couldn't rotate, I couldn't move. And this is kind of this is kind of tough to say or bad to say, but they used to be able to just shoot you up and give you some good stuff and you'd be fine, but they couldn't do that. You can't do that anymore. They've
kind of wandered away from the 70s.
Right.
Sideline. We call it sideline medicine. We've tried to stay out of sideline medicine.
Right,
now.
and that, I mean, I'm glad it's different, because obviously we see the prolonged effects from people who did that and whatnot. So I'm happy that for my long term that I won't have to worry about that. But it's just a freak thing, and then my knee, just another weird wear and tear freak thing where I'm just running. There was no planting, nothing like that. I just felt something moving around in my knee, and I chipped off some of the bone on my I think it was on my femur somehow. I guess I had a little bit of a meniscus tear that exposed the two parts of the knee that connect there in the middle, and they just were smacking each other with no cushion in between or no cartilage, and then chips off something, and then find out that I got to get a bone plug, and it's a 6-month on crutches deal. And I'm like, you got to be kidding me. And couldn't have been a worse time to happen, right? As finishing my senior season, and I'm supposed to be getting as strong and as fast as I possibly can, working out like crazy. I'm doing combine prep, and I couldn't do that. So, real tough. That was a real tough year for me, but I was, like I said, still fortunate to have the opportunities that I've had and to have had the career I had. I mean, I would never change what had happened. And I'm so happy and lucky to have had the career I had.
Visiting with Jordan Westerkamp, former Husker standout. Talk about injuries. At any point with all of that, when does an athlete start reading the signs? I've always believed that life is about signs. If you're going the right direction, you'll see an arrow and it's pointing in the right direction. Right. But when you have as many injuries as you've had, and now working also with athletes or being around elite level athletes as you have, does that ever enter into it? Do you always see it as, hey, everybody gets injured, it's about who comes back from injury? Or do you look at that as a sign that maybe the sign is the body's telling you it might be time not to play football anymore? Right.
Yeah. That's a tough question, because everybody's different, right? I mean, there's guys who have had 20-year or 15, 20-year NFL careers who have had all sorts of injuries, but they were able to come back from it and do just fine. And sometimes it was major injuries, sometimes just minor stuff. So everybody's kind of different, right? But yeah, I mean, there's some days during that window that I was doing that where I would wake up and be like, man, my body hurts. Yeah. I didn't do anything. I'm 20 at that time. I would have been 22, 23 years old. I'm like, is this normal? I powered through that stuff, and I still with the XFL, and that was awesome, and did well, and that was awesome. I definitely had lost a step just from those things. It's hard. I mean, your my knee and my lower abdomen adductor muscle kind of in the leg there. So I was just like couldn't cut as well, and little things like that. And I was able to overcome that and still get to do the XFL thing and have fun with that and do real well. But yeah, I mean, like you said, there does come a time where you just gotta do kind of what's best for yourself, and sometimes that is saying, hey, is it worth putting my body through this to continue to do this, or is it like you said, a sign saying, all right, I think it's time to pull back and start thinking about your future, because you got a long life ahead of you.
Yeah. You still got to put in another 50 or 60 years after that, man. So
right.
Visit about Nebraska. And I mean, I know that Pat Fitzgerald is among those who were hoping you'd be injured before that game, that maybe one or two more things could have kept you on the sidelines before that game, and in particular, the last play of that game.
Right.
You've probably been asked at least 50,000 times about it, but here's 50,001, because, history gives you a chance to, even analyze every moment of it more so than at the time.
Right.
Because the chance to process it and look back. Take us through the play. Take us through something that you've discovered about the play just in the years since it happened.
Yeah, so the play was called Geronimo. It was one of our plays in an end of game package that we had. And one of the cool things is every single week that Friday before the game, when we have like our walkthrough, we would go through those last few plays. And that was always the play that we hit. And everyone would always laugh, we're not going to need it, we're not going to need it. And then boom, we need it. And you ran it perfectly. But about that play, there were a few plays before that whole drive leading up to that play was just incredible because we had so many guys making plays. Obviously Amir's 4th down conversion where he sticks his arm out and gets it. And it was wild. And sometimes that last play, everyone knows that last play and it sometimes overshadows that stuff. So I just want to bring to light, that whole drive. I mean, we had receivers making plays left and right. Amir making that play. Our linemen were blocking like crazy. Ronnie was running for his life at quarterback and making plays. So there was so much stuff that led up to that play that allowed that play to even have a chance, which is awesome. But looking back at it, I mean, it's just every time I think about it, it's just such a cool moment for myself. And here's the reason why. I mean, Northwestern, I'm from Illinois. I'm about 45 minutes away from Evanston, and Coach Fitzgerald would come to my high school every other week to recruit me my junior, senior year. Even after I was committed to Nebraska, he'd come and, hey, you sure? You sure? You sure? I mean, because he could. I mean, he was close. He was real close to my high school. And it just, I think back and I'll just be, I'll remember that I had teammates from my high school that were on that Northwestern team at the time that I played with in high school, or just other guys that I've known from the area. And it's such a cool thing. And just like how it happened with that team, my hometown team. I had ex-teammates on there. I had a great relationship with Coach Fitzgerald. I mean, it was such a cool thing. I guess the only other thing that would have made it just like the coolest thing on the planet, and this is just a selfish thing because playing at Nebraska and scoring touchdowns at Nebraska is amazing. If that would have happened at Northwestern, I probably would have had 150 family members at the game too, which would have made it pretty darn cool. But needless to say, I mean, it was just such a cool moment for myself and for the Nebraska football program, and so much went into that last play and that last drive. It was such a amazing moment, and I'll never forget it.
Oh. Of course, you're right. The Amir Abdullah play on 4th down was spectacular. If that had been a championship season, that would go down as one of the 10 better plays in the history of Nebraska championship seasons because he was. I mean, it was just pure want to. I mean, he was tackled. I mean, he was short on 4th down. It was game over.
Done.
But look at him. I mean, the man was just a warrior on that play.
Yeah, he's one of the most gifted athletes I've ever seen in person in my life, and he's such a great person too. So it couldn't have happened to anyone better to make that conversion.
Okay, but as great as that catch was, and as wonderful and as much of a keepsake, it's not the greatest catch you ever made in Nebraska. Talk about behind the back catch. Remember that one on the sideline? Talk about that one. This is actually a much better catch. It's a much more remarkable catch. And that was almost like a trick catch. It's if you've been practicing it in the backyard for 15 years.
Right. So that was such an awesome game. And we opened up the season with that game. That would have been my redshirt sophomore year. So redshirt sophomore year. So, so to speak, my coming out party, because I had a decent season the season prior, but this season's kind of when I had I kind of exploded there onto the scene, and that was a great game for myself. I opened up that game with a touchdown. I mean, it was FAU, and we ended up beating the crap out of them. But yeah, that play, I'll still watch it and be like, man, that play was this close to being devastating with an interception, and it turned into just an insane catch. And again, just another play that I'll never forget.
How did you do it? It happened in an instant, but how did you do it? What went through your head as the ball was coming your way?
It was, you know what it was? It was just knee jerk reaction to I saw the ball, I saw it tipped, and I was like, throw my hands behind my back and see what happens. But I credit it to my dad and the amount of times we played catch, and he would tell me, just catch the ball any way possible. I'm going to throw it all over the place. Just make the catch the ball. You're a wide receiver. Your job is to catch the ball. And we would do that day after day after day after day when I was in high school. He was my high school football coach. So every day in practice, we're doing this. And he'd throw multiple footballs at me or just everywhere. And I've like, I made that catch before. Just again, it's just reaction, or it gets tipped or say, oh, caught it, But for it to happen in a game like that, it's just you don't see that. So that was pretty darn cool to be on the receiving end of that one, and again, just another crazy play that I'll never forget.
Now, did anybody ever take a picture of that? And do you have a picture of that catch? You probably have the one in the end zone against Northwestern, but I don't know if any photographers. They only have like 150 photographers at every Nebraska football game, maybe more. Surely one of them had to capture you with the ball behind your back catching.
Yeah, definitely. And there's a really cool one that I have at my parents' house, and it's kind of like a slideshow, and it shows just like 5 snapshots of it all happening in person where the ball is tipped, it's coming back, I'm starting to move my hands backwards. So it's really cool snapshots there, one after the other. And it just shows the whole process of how I caught it. And just another like cool thing that, again, I credit to my dad with my, discipline and making sure I'm doing everything correct. And even on that play, I got 2 feet in bounds too. It was that I pitter pattered my feet. But again, that was just like so natural to me to just, hey, pitter patter your feet. You're on the sideline. The ball is behind you. Just throw your hands back there, make the play. And then I catch the ball. I throw it to the ref, and I'm running because we were an up-tempo offense. So just in my head, I was like, okay, next play. And then we snapped the ball. I think I got like a bubble thrown to me, and they blew it dead, and they started to review it. And then I looked up, and I remember Kenny ran over to me and like grabbed my helmet. Was like, dude, do you know what you just did?
Yeah.
And I like looked up at the jumbotron. I was like,
wow, insane.
I was like, wow, yeah, that was pretty cool.
That was cool. Nebraska in the Big Ten. It's been rough the last few years. You're a Big Ten guy. I mean, you watched it every friggin' weekend growing up. It's a physical league. There's always somebody in the A gap. Corners cover you and safeties hit you.
Yep.
And it just seems like we've had real trouble adjusting to the physicality of the Big Ten Conference.
Yeah, just these man, it's just been so up and down this past season, the last few seasons. My time there, we had some solid football teams. We were winning 9 games a season. My junior year, we went 5-7 and made a bowl game, and we beat UCLA. And that was a kind of a fluke season, very similar to this season. We had a lot of very close games, a lot of 1-touchdown games, where it could have gone either way. Just a crazy seasons. It's super physical, right? And there's been times where they've struggled. I think our defense has been pretty darn good this year. I mean, I love watching our RD this year. They're so fast to the ball. You can tell they've taken a big step forward since last year. But again, you just look at the Big Ten, and these next 2 games that Nebraska has, you got Wisconsin and Iowa, and it's like the epitome of the Big Ten, just hard-nosed, disciplined, physical as can be. Those 2 teams are always the most physical teams that I played when I was there. And they always have big linebackers that just jack the receivers up and whatnot. So I'm hoping that I know they're getting ready for that off a bye week. They'll be ready to rock. But yeah, it's a super physical conference. And as I mentioned earlier with the injuries, I think that was part of my deal. It's just the wear and tear and the bang, just nonstop. It's tough. It's a tough conference, and that's why it's always great when you see a Big Ten team play in a bowl game against an SEC team or a team from a different conference, because they always, after that game, will come out and say, my goodness, we were not ready for that physicality.
Yeah. Well, and it seems to me that, the league, it's a cultural league offensively. You can go to different parts of the country, in particular the Southwest Conference, the old Southwest Conference territory, Texas and the Southwest part of the United States, maybe the Pac-12, right. Certainly the SEC, and in some parts of the ACC. You can run about any offense and be successful. But it seems to me that in this conference, you just can't do that. You've got to do what everybody else is doing. Otherwise, you'll not see the football. And maybe Nebraska thought, okay, we're going to bring, the up-tempo spread, what they're doing at Central Florida here, and we're going to get the Big Ten to change for us. Well, we found out that, sorry, it doesn't work that way. Yeah.
And there's a lot of things that go into that. And yeah, it's tough. Like I said, those defenses and these 2 defenses that we're going to face the next 2 weeks, they are so disciplined. And those spread offense sometimes rely on getting into an up-tempo and tiring guys out and just catching them slipping up or making mistakes. But these teams, Big Ten teams, you just don't see that. It's tough. They're super well-coached teams. They're super disciplined. They're where they need to be when they need to be there. And that's tough. So that's just one aspect of it. And then also, I've mentioned this a few times in a couple different shows. It's just crazy watching Adrian, who's now I think he's a 4-year starter.
Yeah, he started for 4. He's basically a 5th-year guy. Yeah,
right. And I look at like his receivers, and he's had like a new slate of receivers every single year with the transfer portal and whatnot. And for an offense to be successful, you've got to have good chemistry, you know, between yourself, the receivers, running backs. Everybody's got to kind of be on the same page. I know that's tough when you got new guys coming in there every single year, and maybe you get a year or you get like one off season with a bunch of new guys. It's not enough. I look back when I played, and I had myself, Tommy, all of our receivers. We were there from my freshman year to senior year, and we had built awesome relationships, and we were all on the same page in the field. And I know that has played into their offense woes this season. You can tell they have little hiccups and just on the same page. That's tough. It's hard to blame them when they hard to blame Adrian when, again, new guys every single year. It's hard. It's hard.
Yeah, new running backs, linemen. You're right about receivers, and then the conditions of the game. Because, you know, the other team knows about number 2 now. They're not going to ignore number 2. So they're going to say, all right, let's see what number 2 can do. It's really a top to bottom league now. When you're recruited to Nebraska, you know, every conference has its elite top 3 teams, and then its bottom 3 teams that are going to be pretty hard to lose to. And then everybody in the middle bangs around. But the worst team in the Big Ten this year, Rutgers, record-wise, Nebraska. Right. Illinois goes and beats Minnesota and Penn State on the road. So you're thinking, okay, where are the easy ones? Okay, where are the bottom 3? There isn't any anymore in the Big Ten.
Right. Yeah. No. Exactly. It's tough. And the Big Ten West right now is just it's a slugfest. And there's Nebraska's not the worst team in the West, and everybody knows that. Anybody who watches the games understands that. But yeah, it's tough. There used to be some teams where you'd have, you know, okay, this is going to be an easy win or whatnot. You know, you have those gimme games, so to speak. Yeah. And Nebraska's schedule this year is tough. I mean, they're non-conference games. Oklahoma, you know, one of the normally teams will schedule, you know, smaller schools, and it becomes more of like a money thing for the schools. They'll come out and play. They'll get their butts kicked. They'll take the money. They'll be happy about it, and they're on their way. We haven't had many of those this year, and like I said, with Oklahoma. But I feel like Nebraska's had a much better season than their record shows. And I think everybody kind of sees that, understands that. We've had close games with Michigan State, Michigan, Ohio State, Oklahoma. I mean, those are all top teams, right? So it's such a tough year to watch because they're close. They are so close. I'm glad that, you know, they retained Coach Frost, made the changes they made. I think it's going to help them out. And I'm looking forward to the end of this season and to next season already.
Jordan, it's always great talking to you. Thanks for your time. Great fan favorite, and folks are going to remember your catches for a long, long time.
All right, Jim. Thank you so much. Appreciate you having me on.
You bet, man. That's Jordan Westerkamp, former Husker standout here on the Nebraska Greats podcast. Tune in again next time.
This has been Nebraska Greats, a weekly podcast serving the Nebraska Greats Foundation. You can find each episode on Apple, Spotify, Amazon Music, Google Play, and anywhere you get your podcasts. Please give generously to serve Nebraska's former sports heroes in need at negreats.org. And be sure to follow the Any Greats on Facebook and Twitter.